Welcome to 5 Minute Deck Breakdown, where I go through the win cons, some mulligan tips, and the flex spots of various decks under 5 minutes. Up first is Zombie Ashe. If you're familiar with Zombie Ashe, that means you've probably been playing Legends of Runeterra for quite a while. This deck used to be pretty prevalent back in the day, multiple patches ago, but now it hasn't really seen much play. But in the most recent patch, we did get 2 buffs to this deck. First buff is Ashe, needing only 4 targets to be frozen before she can actually level up. And the second buff is Runeterra Shaman, getting an additional +1 health up to 4, which gives her a lot more survivability against key removal cards. In general, the win count of this deck really is just to control the board. We want to freeze the enemy's big threats. We want to remove those big threats using Thresh and the Rimefang Wolf in order for to pull those targets out. We want to trade very efficiently with the few units that we do have via Troll Chant, Brittle Steel, Flash Freeze, Harsh Winds, etc. And we want to limit the amount of damage we take early as much as possible because we're not running really any healing here. We want to control the board and control the game until Ashe levels up, until we find her, which we can do easily with Thresh and the Babbling Berg, only being able to target her or the Rimefang Den Mother. Once we have that set, we want to keep Ashe alive if we can. If not, that's why we run the Rekindlers and the Harrowing, and we want to just essentially make sure their whole board can't block us. Use Ashe's level up Crystal Arrow to freeze the entire board and swing through with plenty of damage. So there's a lot of cards in here that are just for control, like all of our early cards and freezing cards. They're pretty self-explanatory. I'm running the Rimefang Den Mother for a little bit extra damage at the end so we can actually get enough damage to swing. We're not going to be doing a lot of damage early, so we want to be able to swing and deal almost a full 20 in one turn. It's kind of like a combo deck in that way, where we want to just set up and then have a big finish. And the Den Mother really allows us to have big enough units in order to do that. And of course, Harrowing and the Rekindler helps us set up even more of those big turns. So for mulligan tips, keeping it simple, really, we just want Icefell Archer, Avarosan Sentry, a Brittle Steel, a Flash Freeze. Some freezes early are really strong. If we have some of those, we can consider keeping an Ashe or a Thresh. We can also consider keeping a Rimefang Wolf or a Babbling Berg. We definitely don't want things like Harsh Winds, Vengeance, Harrowing, Rekindler, essentially like that. Troll Chant, you can possibly keep it. And like I said, some of the other, like your champions, you might not want to keep most of the time unless you really do have some consistent early curve. Obviously, this is very matchup dependent. If you're playing an aggro deck, you really can't keep anything higher than 3 or 4 because you need to be able to withstand that initial aggro burst. Its strengths really are combat-oriented decks. Against another control deck, you're not going to have a whole lot of targets to freeze, but you can still kind of withstand some of that onslaught late in the game by having some big freezes. Obviously, freezing is always good against Demacian-based like mid-range decks, as well as like Lee Sin decks and anything that really wants to get in and fight. Pantheon's another good example of what freeze is good against. Probably weak against things like Darkness and other things that are just going to have not many units on the board, and they don't really care about combat. They just want to blow up your board. You're going to have to play a lot different style-wise in order to win matchups like those. Not saying they're unwinnable, it's just you're going to have to alter your style. When this deck shines is really when it's a combat-centric game between both decks, and you can just outlast and out-freeze your opponent to death. I think some of the flex spots here, in my opinion, right now, are definitely the Rimefang Den Mother. Like I said, I'm running it for a particular reason because I think we need a little bit more damage push after we level up Ashe. I found multiple times where I didn't have enough to actually finish the game and they could win on the next attack. But the one downside to that card in general is that the Babbling Berg won't automatically get you Ashe every time because there are now 2 things in your deck that have 5 or more attack, Ashe and the Rimefang Den Mother. So you might want to cut that down to 2 so you have a more likely option to get Ashe, or cut it out entirely is an option. A lot of people don't like the Runeterra Shaman. I think this buff was huge. It really helps her solidify herself as a solid 5-drop who will consistently get you extra freezes, level up Ashe, and get your Den Mother to summon a massive wolf herself. That's Zombie Ashe. If you're not familiar with it, give it a try. The deck code's below. As always, likes, comments, and subscribe. That always really helps us out more than you know. Peace.